Quiet, please. Hello and welcome to week 11. Today we're going to be talking about improving navigation with jQuery. Once you downloaded the zip file, you'll see that there's a couple files in there. One is navigation.html and the other one is an image. Let's go ahead and open navigation.html. And you see that if you go down to the body section, we have a list of links. They go to different sites like w3schools.com, api.jquery.com, and so forth. They are inside, this list is inside a div1d wrapper just for layout purposes. And if we open that up, that file with Firefox, that's what it looks like. A list, an unordered list of links. When I click on any of these links, they behave exactly like you expected. The browser takes you to the URL of the link that is being specified. Now, what we like to do today, instead of having the default behavior, we want to change that up a little bit. The first thing we want is to prevent the browser from opening up that link into the same page. So we want to prevent the default behavior, and we know how to do that. So let's notice that all the links have a class of pop-up, so that is an easy way of get hold of them with jQuery. So inside our document ready function, we're going to tab a couple times, and we're going to say $A, meaning all the links, with a class of pop-up. This is our selector, and when somebody clicks on them, we want to I want something to happen. So we have to have our function there and space, curly braces, then we separate the curly braces. So we want to prevent the default behavior. We know that to be able to do that, we have to get hold of the event object. So we're going to put the word event inside the parentheses of the function, then come below and say event prevent default. So now, let's see then, go back to the browser and reload. Now when I click on any of these links, nothing happens because we prevented the default behavior. I guess I didn't. Let's reload that for a second. Sometimes it's just in cache. So let me do that again. So that should be okay. That should be okay. Let's go back to the code and let's see what's going on here. Class pop-up, they all have class pop-up. Why is that happening? Prevent default. Okay, let me save that again, try it again. Somehow I'm doing something wrong. Interesting. Okay, it's time to open Firebug, and it's time to open up our code validator. I'm going to reload that once again and see if I have any errors. So for some reason it's only doing with that one, so it might be misspelled. Let's see. Oh yes, there we go. I misspelled that. All right. Okay, so now it should be working fine. So there was a first link that kept on firing, but now nothing happens. Okay, so I prevented default behavior. A second thing I want to do, if I want to be able to do anything with those links, is to get a hold of the URL inside the href. So what I'm going to do for each link that's being clicked on, so I can just use that this word, I'm going to get hold of the attribute href, and I do that using the attribute method, and inside the parentheses I'm going to use href. And what I want is to save that inside a variable that I'm going to call URL. You can call it what you want, and I just decided to call it URL. Okay, so now we prevent the default behavior, but we still have this href, so the information of the location we want to open. And with that information, we can use the window open method in JavaScript. So the window open method is just like that. You enter the word window dot open with parentheses. And inside parentheses, you have to have the URL of the link you're trying to open. Since we saved that inside a variable, I can just use the $ URL. By the way, the $ is not necessary. I could have just called that URL just like that. By convention, because this is a jQuery object, most programmers like to use a $ in front of it just to distinguish it from variables created in a different way. They would not be objects. This is a jQuery object, $URL. And now this would open up a new tab inside a browser. And if you want to be able to manipulate that tab, you can save that inside a variable. And I'm going to call it my window. So this is just a regular JavaScript variable. I'm going to save that and go to the folder, sorry, to the browser, and reload. And now when I click on a link, there we go, it opens up a new tab. So this one, my computer is kind of slow, goes to w3schools.com. If I go back to my code and click on another link, a new tab will be opened up, just right here. That seems to be taking a little while. Actually kind of push the previous one to the right and opens up right here. And I can keep on going. Here we go, the third one, the third tab. Just want to point out that that last link is an example that I created on JS Fiddle, which is a free editor, online editor, very, very handy. Has an HTML window, a CSS window, a JavaScript window, and here gives you the result. I use this very frequently when I'm just trying to test small snippets of code and I don't want to create an entire page for that. So here I'm testing the behavior of prevent default versus return false. You read about those in your book last week, but I create an example that might help you to understand it. I just wanted to point that out. So now I'm going to close all these tabs, because this is all good and fine, but really what I like to do is something else. I like to be able to open up a window, a separate window that would with a certain dimensions. And I can do that with window open. So I'll go back to my code. So I'm going to start commenting here. I'm going to say open new browser tab. And here I'm going to say prevent browser from following link. Actually, maybe I'm just going to bring it as this to the top. Just reorganize my code a little bit. I'm going to say obtain URL of link clicked. Okay. So now instead, as I said, I don't want to just open up a new browser tab. I like to open up a new separate window. And I can just copy and paste this code, and we're going to elaborate on this. So I'm going to comment out the previous one. And what I can do, I can give this window a name and dimensions. So there are all different parameters in this method. So at the moment, I don't want to give it any specific name, so I can just enter, open and just empty quotes, comma, and the third parameter takes quotes as well. And inside this parameter, I'm gonna give it width and height information. I'm gonna set my width to be equal to, let's say, I don't know, 600, meaning pixels, comma, height. And notice that's all inside the quotes, 400. So parameter number one is the URL of the location you want to open. It can be saved in a variable, or you can enter the URL yourself. So for example, I could have entered this exactly like I have it here inside quotes. So the whole thing inside quotes, I could do that and put it right here. The second parameter is the window name. I don't want to use any specific name. It's not the window title, it's the window name. And the third parameter is other specification that indicate the possibly the height and the width, and there's going to be a couple other ones that we'll see in a moment. So I'm going to save this and go back to my browser. I'm going to reload. So as I said, what I'm expecting to happen is that when I click on a link, a new window will pop up. So I'm going to click on the first link. And here we go. I got a new window that pops up, and I can move. This is kind of an annoying behavior. It was really used a lot of years ago, and we'll see that coding has evolved in such a way that allows us to do this in a much more sophisticated way. But this is part kind of the history of JavaScript. It's important to know how to do this. It might come in handy sometimes. So this is just a window, and we specify the dimensions. So I can, actually I don't think I can scroll. I have to make this bigger. I don't know why. I guess there's a way also to indicate that you want to have a scroll bar. So if you read the specification, so if you come to w3schools.com, I gave you the link to the direct tutorial to that. But if I search for window open, in w3schools.com, it brings up a bunch of links, and I'm going to click on the window open method. Opens up a new tab, I guess, and it gives me a bunch of information. And I know for the specifications that I can have something like, yes, scroll bar. I can set the scroll bar to be displayed. I guess, yes, it works in Firefox. There's other things, a menu bar. So you can customize your window any way you want to. I'll let you experiment with that. For the moment, I just want to close this extra window, and I want to go back to my code, because the next thing I want to do, I want to show you how to position the window. So let me show this again. So if I click on this link, the window comes up in a specific position, and it probably depends on the size of your screen. But what if I wanted to make this window come up in the top left corner, for example? Well, there's a way to do that. So I'm going to go back to the code. So I'm going to say, I'll make a comment here, said open new window with specific, with specific size. That's what I'm trying to say. Window with specific size. I'm going to copy this and paste it below and comment out the other line. Now I'm going to add something here. So I have the width and the height. Now inside the third parameter, remember that's all inside one set of quotes, I'm going to put another comma, and I'm going to say left equal 0, comma, top equal 0. This is all meant to be in pixels. I'm going to save that. So what I'm expecting to see is that the new window will pop up in my top left corner, in the top left corner of my screen. Let's go to the browser and reload this. And let's see if it's going to do it. Didn't quite do what I expected. I have my dock, so I'm working on the Mac. I have my dock visible right here. Let's see if I move my dock to the bottom, if it's going to change it. I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to do that again. Oh yes, so the dock kind of prevented this window to be in the top left. If you're working on Windows, you probably wouldn't have the same problem. But this is the behavior I expected to happen. So it goes in the top left corner. Of course, it accounts for the menu bar here on top. So if I wanted to position more centered, I would have to do some calculations. And that's the next thing we're going to do. So I'm going to close this window. I'm going to move my dock again to the left because it's more convenient for me. And I'm going to keep on coding here. So I'm going to comment this out. And actually first add a comment. So open new position window. And I'm going to copy this line. And I'm going to paste it below. comment this out. I'm going to say open new centered window. Okay, to be able to open a centered window, I cannot just guess the left and top measurements. I really have to have the dimensions of my screen. Well, first of all, yeah, we can keep let's save the width and the height into variable because I'm going to need them for my calculation. Okay, going to create a new variable called width, and I'm going to set it equal to 600, meaning pixels, and I'm going to create another variable called height. I'm going to set it equal to 400. Then I have to to be able to calculate the distance from the left to center my window and this distance from the top to center my window. I have to think for a second. I got to get the screen width, and I have to remove the side. I'm going to calculate the half of my screen width. From that half, I'm going to remove half of the window size. And basically, what I'm going to come up with is this. So I'm going to get the screen width. And that's, I actually don't know if I have to use, yes, it doesn't want the capital W. I'm using the screen object, the JavaScript screen object, and I'm retrieving the width property. And I'm going to subtract the width on my window that I created, and I'm going to put those inside parentheses because I'm going to divide that subtraction by 2. And that should give me my left distance. I'm going to create a variable called left. So I calculate the left like that. If this doesn't make sense, just do some calculation on paper and it will click. And I'm going to create figure out the distance from the top. So I'm going to create a variable called top. And to do that, I have to get the screen height minus that by 2. Okay. Next, I have to create, instead of putting the information here just like that, okay, I guess I can leave the width and the height in, no, actually I cannot. Yes, I can, sorry for the confusion. The 600 and 400 are the height that I chose right here. If I specify a different height and a different width, I would have to use the variable I created. In this particular case, it will be the same, but I'm gonna go ahead and change that. So I have to put variables in there. So the way to do it, I had to create a long string. So it's probably better to create a new string. I'm gonna create specs for specifications. I'm going to put it in quotes. I'm going to copy and paste this line. Then I'm going to break it up. Create a little bit more space. Okay, so 600. Let's say that I don't want 600 by 400, but let's say make it something different. Let's make it 800 by 600. Okay, so here I don't want to enter the width manually. So I could, but I want to make it a little bit more dynamic than that. So I'm going to remove that, close my quotes, and then use the plus symbol and add my width manually. And then open my quotes again. Now I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to do the same thing for the height. I don't want this height because I want to be able to determine the height dynamically in here. So I'm going to close my quotes, add a plus sign, use the height variable I created, add another plus sign because I know that using the plus sign I can concatenate or catenate strings, and then I use another double quotes. Same thing with left and top. So I'm going to remove the 0, close the quotes, open and enter the left variable I created, and same thing with top, remove that, close the quotes. I did the wrong thing. It was the equal sign that I wanted. Top, And I think that's it. So instead of having this long quote right here, this long string, I can just enter the name of the variable I created, specs. And just to be sure that I did everything correctly, when you create long strings like that, it's always a good idea to display them first to make sure that you did what you thought you did. So now I'm going to display that string with alert, and it's going to be in here. And so this should be able to allow me to center my window. So I'm going to save this and go to Firefox, reload. It probably won't be exactly centered from the left corner, but it might be centered from the edge on my dock. Reload that, and let's click. So something I didn't do right. Height is not defined, so I must have misspelled something. Height, GHT, there we go, GHT. Save that. And try again. All right, so I'm reading the specs, the variable called specs, with 800 comma, height 600 comma, left 440 comma, top 225. These two numbers, left and top, will probably be different for you because your screen size might be different than mine. So they should be customized to your screen size. When I hit click, when I give it an OK. Okay, so this window is not exactly centered, remember, because I have my dock here. So if I'm going to do that again and move my dock to the bottom and redo this, yes, now it looks centered, and yours should be as well. And here I have my URL to open up. Remember, there's no scroll bar in Firefox by default when you use window open, but you could use scroll bar equal yes. As a matter of fact, we're going to try and do that in a second to get a scroll bar so you could actually scroll in here, because as it is, this is not very useful because the window is not big enough. So let's go back to the code. So I believe that's what I have to do. I have to enter I'm going to add a plus. I'm going to have a comma, scroll bar equal yes. Hopefully that will work. Save that and reload this. I must have done something wrong still, and not giving the scroll bar. Maybe it's just a slightly different syntax. You can work with that. Just go to the w3schools.com tutorial window, open, and see if you can figure out how to add a scroll bar. It might be that Firefox doesn't support that anymore, but I think it should. Anyway, that is what we have. This is kind of old school. What we've been doing is really very much old school, and it's really not done too much anymore. What people do right now, I mentioned that it's a little bit more sophisticated behavior, sort of like what we done with the assignment last week with Fancy Box. Typically, if you wanted to have a window open, you would have the background darken, you have a window open it up, that looks more like an iframe, and then you would have a little icon on the top right that when you click on it, the window closes. So we're going to create something similar to that. So let's go back. First of all, I have to move my dock because I'm just used to have it on the left. It's just a little bit more convenient. I'm going to go back to my code. Okay, so I'm going to comment out a couple things here. I don't want that alert box to come up, and I don't want to open it up this way anymore. Now I'm going to add another section. So now I'm going to say, create a comment, and I say open. Oh, I'm going to call it pop-up. All right, so what I like to do using jQuery, I like to append to the body. So here's my body. I have my list of links. I'm going to create a new iframe. I'm going to create an iframe, and if you actually let's just create an iframe first, and then I'll show you what I have in mind. So when somebody clicks on a link, I like an iframe to be displayed below the links. So I'm going to say I'm going to select the body, and to the body I'm going to append. And I'm going to put inside the parentheses an HTML string that will create an iframe. So I could probably create it outside just because it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to save that inside a variable that I'm going to call new iframe. I can call it what I want. And inside that, it's going to be a string. So I know I'm going to have to use quotes. Actually, I'm going to use single quotes because I will have to use double quotes in my HTML, and it's just easier not to create conflict. So an iframe is created with the iframe tag in HTML. I know that the next parameter is the source, and that goes inside quotes. For now, I'm going to leave it open because I will have to use the URL of the link I clicked on. And I have to give it a size. So I'm going to say that the width is equal to 600 and the height is equal to 400. If this is completely new to you, then you're gonna have to review how to create iframes in HTML. This is a very basic tag. So I have everything I need other than my URL. So I have inside the quotes here, I had to put my URL. I cannot just put the URL like that because that will be part of the string. This is a variable. So what I need to do is close my string with a single quotes, space, put a plus sign, and then put another plus sign to join that in single quote to the rest of the string. So when the browser encounters this line, it will substitute for the URL variable what's inside the variable. So I'm going to save that, and if I did, so I need something else. So far I only saved that inside a string called new iframe, but I have to put that string in here. And if I want to stick with my logic before, meaning that when I create an object I use a $sign in front of my string name, I should keep on going with that. So inside my the parenthesis of append, I'm going to enter the name of that variable I created, new iframe. I'm going to save that. With some luck, I did everything right. So now, instead of a window opening, I should see an iframe opening in this same page. And here we go. Here we have our iframe, and iframes by default have a scroll bar, which is a little bit handier, but is part of the same page. Okay, so we're getting closer. What I like to, this is a step in the right direction, but I want to make this a little bit more sophisticated. First of all, I like to center this and make it bigger, but I don't want to have to figure out the size. So if I resize this window, I like the iframe to resize as well. So I shouldn't use specific width and height in pixels. I should use percentages of my screen size. And I like the background to be a certain, to be dark. So let's go back to the code and go up to the CSS section. I actually had created a style for my iframe that positions the iframe absolutely and gives it a 5% distance from the top, 5% distance from the left, and sets the width and the height to 90%. So if I remove the underscore from that, and I'm going to save it and go back to my code and reload this, I should be moving in the right direction. So this is going to be positioned absolutely with respect to the body. So if I click on the first, there we go. So I have my iframe that is going to resize, if I did everything correctly, there we go, with respect to the screen size. So CSS came in to help us for that. So if I remove my Firefox window here, You see how the iframe resize itself just because I use percentages. So we are moving in the right direction. Okay, if I want to make the background all dark, well, one way to do it, it's probably not the only way, one way to do it is to encase that iframe inside a div, and if you give that div an ID of dark back, I already created some style that gives the background a semi-transparent black color, and it has a width and a height of 100, and it's positioned also absolutely to the top left corner. So we'll cover the entire screen. So I have to wrap my iframe inside a div so I can keep on building up this string. Div with an ID of black, dark black actually, dark black, and I have to close my div. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to reload this. Now if I click again, I've done something wrong. I must have misspelled something. So fire back to the rescue. Let me reload this. Try that again. Okay, no JavaScript error. So probably is a misspelled ID. Dark black, it's dark back, not dark black. So that's what it was. Save that and go back. Okay, try it again. Oh, here we go. So now I can remove my Firebug and extend this a little bit. All right, so you can make this even darker. You can give it a different color if you want to, but now we have that effect I was talking about. We have an iframe that pops up. We are still on the same page, and we have a dark background. We only have one problem. Let's say we're done reading this information, and we want to go back to the page below. Well, there's nothing that allows us to do that. How do we go back to the page below? So because we built this with jQuery, we can use jQuery to solve this. And that's why I gave you that image in the folder. So if I go back to the folder, there's an image called window close. This is really blown up, but it's a little icon that I want to use, very, very tiny. So I'm going to use that image. It's called window close-close.png. I'm going to add it. And I actually gave it, I thought I gave it some specific information. I guess I did not. So we're going to have to style it somehow, because really I like to position it in the top right corner of my frame. So first of all, I'm going to add it. So I'm going to, actually it has to be inside the div. So I'm going to add image tag, and the image we are using is source equal window-close.png. We can give it an alt tag just so that it would validate. It really is not necessary, because code that you add with jQuery is not validated. So actually, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to use it. That's just to save us some time. And I'm going to just close this image tag. Okay, I'm going to save that. And let's see what happens. So probably it will display, because I didn't style it. I don't know why I forgot to put it in there. Oh no, here it is. Dark back image. So it will be styled, so the position is absolute, and I calculate where it's supposed to be by giving it top and right of 5%, and I set the height and so forth. So you can just look at this and analyze if you want to, but we're going to go on and see this file with reload this in the browser. So now when I click on my link, there we go. So this little image shows up here in the top right corner, and I can scroll through my page, and when I'm done with it, well, nothing happens yet. When I click on it, nothing happens. That's the instinctive behavior, so we got to build that up. So let's go back to the code once more. All right, so I added my iframe. So now when I click on the image that's inside, it actually has Did I give it a name? I didn't give it a class. I can give it a class, but I can just say dark back. The image contained an element with an ID of dark back. When I click on it, what's going to happen? Got to create a function to make something happen. Separate the curly braces in a function. I want to completely remove the entire bit of HTML I created. So I can easily do that by selecting it, and I'm going to select an element with the ID of dark back, and I can just say remove. So when I save that and go back to the browser, reload that once again. Okay, I click on my link, and here it is, and I'm done reading it. Now when I click on this icon, if I did everything correctly, it removes it completely. So a lot of effort to create this effect that you will be creating in a much easier way with your homework. So here's an example of what your homework is going to look like. I've asked you to gather all your previous assignments and create a page that will link to them. So in this page, I have an ordered list of links instead of an unordered list of links. And when I click on one of them, I use Fancy Box to create a similar behavior to what we did. There we go. So this was assignment number 3, I believe. So when there was a playlist, so when I click on it, I had this effect. Notice the icon is slightly different. What I'm saying is I'm asking you to create an effect similar to what we did in this demonstration, but I don't want you to have to go through all the lines of code that we created with a lot of effort, but I want you to use Fancy Box to create the same effect that we can be creating a couple lines of code. I hope that everything was clear enough, and until next time.